2 Kings chapter 23. Then the king summoned and gathered all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem. Together with the king, all the men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the priests, the prophets, and all the people, both young and old, went up to the house of the Lord. There, the king read aloud to them all the words of the book of the covenant that had been found in the house of the Lord. Standing beside a pillar, the king made a covenant before the Lord, committing to follow the Lord, keep his commandments, testimonies, and statutes with all their heart and soul. The people also pledged to uphold the covenant. The king instructed Hilkiah the high priest, the priests of the second order, and the doorkeepers to bring out of the temple of the Lord all the articles that had been made for Baal, Asherah, and the whole host of heaven. These items were burned outside Jerusalem in the Kidron Valley, and the ashes were taken to Bethel. Josiah removed the idolatrous priests that the kings of Judah had appointed to burn incense on the high places throughout the cities of Judah and the areas surrounding Jerusalem. These priests had burned incense to Baal, the sun, the moon, the constellations, and the entire host of heaven. He removed the Asherah pole from the house of the Lord, taking it outside Jerusalem to the Kidron Valley, where he burned it and ground it to dust. The ashes were scattered over the graves of the common people. Josiah tore down the houses of the male cult prostitutes, which were located in the house of the Lord and where women wove tapestries for Asherah. Josiah brought all the priests from the cities of Judah and defiled the high places where the priests had burned incense. He did this from Geba to Beersheba and tore down the high places at the city gates that were at the entrance of the gate of Joshua, the governor of the city. Those high places were on the left as one enters the city gate. The priests of the high places, however, did not come up to the altar of the Lord in Jerusalem. Instead, they ate unleavened bread with their fellow priests. Josiah defiled Topheth in the Valley of Ben Hinnom so that no one could make his son or daughter pass through the fire and worship of Molech. He removed the horses that the kings of Judah had dedicated to the sun. They were positioned at the entrance of the house of the Lord near the chamber of Nathan-Melech the court official, and he burned the chariots of the sun. Josiah dismantled the altars on the roof of Ahaz's upper chamber that the kings of Judah had made. He also removed the altars that Manasseh had made in the two courtyards of the Lord's house. He pulverized them and threw the dust into the Kidron Valley. He defiled the high places that were before Jerusalem, to the south of the Mount of Destruction, which Solomon king of Israel had built for Ashtoreth, the abomination of the Sidonians, for Chemosh, the abomination of the Moabites, and for Milcom, the detestable idol of the Ammonites. Josiah smashed the sacred pillars and cut down the Asherah poles and covered the sites with human bones. He also tore down the altar at Bethel, the high place made by Jeroboam son of Nebat, who caused Israel to sin. He burned the high place, crushed it to dust, and burned the Asherah pole. As Josiah turned, he saw the tombs there on the mountain. He sent men to take the bones out of the tombs, and he burned them on the altar to defile it, according to the word of the Lord proclaimed by the man of God who had foretold these things. The king asked, "What is that monument I see?" The men of the city replied, "It is the tomb of the man of God who came from Judah and pronounced these things that you have done to the altar of Bethel." Josiah said, "Leave it alone, let no one disturb his bones." So they left his bones undisturbed, along with the bones of the prophet who had come from Samaria. Josiah removed all the shrines on the high places from the cities of Samaria that the kings of Israel had built to provoke the Lord to anger. He did to them exactly what he had done in Bethel. He slaughtered all the priests of the high places on the altars and burned human bones on them. Then he returned to Jerusalem. Josiah commanded all the people, "Observe the Passover of the Lord your God as written in this book of the covenant." No such Passover had ever been observed from the days of the judges who judged Israel, through all the days of the kings of Israel and the kings of Judah. In the 18th year of Josiah's reign, this Passover was observed to the Lord in Jerusalem. Josiah eradicated all the mediums, necromancers, household idols, and all the detestable things that were seen in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem. He carried out these actions to fulfill the words of the law written in the book that the priest Hilkiah found in the Lord's temple. No king before Josiah had turned to the Lord with all his heart, soul, and strength, according to all the law of Moses. And no king like Josiah rose after him. However, the Lord did not turn from his fierce burning anger, which burned against Judah because of all the provocations with which Manasseh had provoked him. The Lord announced, "I will also remove Judah from my presence just as I have removed Israel. I will reject Jerusalem, the city I chose, and the temple about which I said, my name will be there." The rest of the events of Josiah's reign, along with all his accomplishments, are written in the historical record of the kings of Judah. During his reign, Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, marched up to the king of Assyria at the Euphrates River. King Josiah went out to confront him, but Necho killed him at Megiddo when they met. Josiah's servants transported his body in a chariot from Megiddo to Jerusalem, and buried him in his own tomb. Then the common people took Jehoahaz son of Josiah, anointed him, and made him king in place of his father. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, daughter of Jeremiah. She was from Libnah. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight, just as his fathers had done. Pharaoh Necho imprisoned him at Riblah in the land of Hamath to keep him from reigning in Jerusalem, and he imposed on the land a fine of 7,500 pounds of silver and 75 pounds of gold. Then Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim son of Josiah king in place of his father Josiah and changed Eliakim's name to Jehoiakim. But Necho took Jehoahaz and went to Egypt, where he died. Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh, but at Pharaoh's command, he taxed the land to give the money. He exacted the silver and the gold from the people of the land, each man according to his valuation, to give it to Pharaoh Necho. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zebidah, daughter of Pedaiah. She was from Ramah. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight, just as all his ancestors had done.